Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this, our third and final panel of Hello Culture, which has been commissioned today by the Faculty of Arts and Humanities at Coventry University. As you know, the theme of the day has been a series of panels named after song titles, and this one is Come Together. And if you know the rest of the song, Come Together Right Now. And so here we are right now to discuss some really interesting questions about Coventry itself, the place, the physical infrastructure, who owns it, and how we redefine place, space and identity. My name's Helga Henry. I'm a freelance arts consultant. From this morning, I was lucky enough to host our keynote with the wonderful Sarah Ellis. I've been involved in the online and real life iterations of Hello Culture, and I work with the curator of Hello Culture, Lara Ratnaraja, on a number of other projects, particularly to do with diversity and leadership. And I'm also very delighted to say that amongst my other freelance clients, there are a number of people who are here with us on the panel and also in the audience. So today, as I say, this panel, we've looked at various aspects of the virtual experience, but we're going to look at whose space Coventry is, how our experience during lockdown may have changed our appreciation of it or our use of it, and that's a very live issue, and how we can engage with it, and how we redefine place, space and identity. We've got a cracking panel to talk to you about that today. We have Simon Vaughan, who's Managing Director of Creative Giants. We have Helen Kilby Nelson, who is an artist and works extensively with communities, and Cara Pickering, who is the visual arts programme producer for Coventry City of Culture Trust. City of Culture just about to kick off shortly with its opening event, and then a signature moves and more to come besides. So just before we get started on hearing from each of the panelists, which we will do, they'll do a short presentation to get our thought caps going, our juices flowing, a couple of bits of information. As before, for those of you who've been to everything, you've heard this, but for those of you who are new, we have closed captions. They're available by clicking on the CC button up there at the bottom of the screen. There's an option on that to view the full transcript, as well as simply displaying scrolling subtitles like you might do on the telly. We'll also be recording this session, so and then putting it up on the Hello Culture website. If you missed previous events and panels, really worth popping that on for an hour to catch up on some of the other stuff. There's been some excellent work as part of the BBC Academy Digital Cities season as well. So yeah, come along and watch it and tell your friends on the Hello Culture website. It's really important that we still maintain that interactivity for the panel. So please put your questions in the chat. We will try and get through with as many as possible. This all looks great because of our fantastic producer, Shirley Benson, and our amazing tech supremo, Gareth. And closed captioning is, as ever, provided by the terrific Wendy Osmond. So let's move to the panel that Lara has so beautifully curated. First up, we're going to start. I'm going to invite Simon to join us on screen and to tell us a little bit about his take on placemaking and wayfaring. Simon, over to you. Many thanks.
Thanks, Helga, and thanks everyone for attending this. So my name is Simon Vaughan. I'm the Managing Director of Creative Giants. We're a art-led production company, and we've been providing consultancy and delivery on a number of different projects. Past clients include Glastonbury Festival, Tom York, Calm Charity, The Big Issue, and now we're the appointed place curators for the public realm. So we've been working in collaboration with Coventry City Council and the Trust to provide long-term strategic consultancy, project-based design and development, as well as public art engagement schemes. So our kind of aims, it's kind of an important element of our ambition is to change the perceptions of the city, ensuring its future as a place where people want to live, work, play and invest. And a key part of the regeneration is the sort of recognition of the changing needs in local communities and city centres. So we think by using art to really inject colour and vibrancy, which you may have seen in the city, we hope to reconnect people and, sort of invite them back into the city's hub. Now, working with partners, stakeholders, artists, the aim is to transform the city and create a sustainable legacy for the years to come. So we really believe that art can regenerate, reinvigorate, and build a legacy. In the slides that you'll see, there are some examples of some of the projects we're working on, including Pool Meadow, which is the gateway, the train station, Hertford Street, and even a tourism pod that's by the train station. Just to bring up a few terms that are going to come up today is placemaking. It's a word that we don't like to use, but I'll read what it says here. Placemaking is a multifaceted approach to planning, design, and management of public spaces. It capitalizes on local communities' assets, inspiration, and potential, with the intention of creating public space that promotes public health, happiness, and well-being. I think by that, what we kind of mean is that we make a stage so that the community can take it on and create their own place. Now, we work with an expert called Richard Wolfstrom, and he's coined a term called wayfaring. And for us, wayfaring refers to a more engaging series of installations and interventions. So unlike wayfinding, where you get these sort of ways doing train station that way, bus station that way, we use interventions that inform and direct a more artisan and engaging way. And we try to seek and communicate a place narrative by using like a historical background, Starley, the Blue River, sort of obvious ones, or more contemporary ones about where the future of Coventry is going. And we try to engage all stakeholders in this. City centres, they play a huge important role as a hub of a city. They're the place where we meet, we work, and we bring communities together. But despite that importance, city centres are at risk of economic and social decline. Internet shopping has overtaken the demand for local stores, and the pandemic has shown us that nightlife cannot just sustain the investment and engagement needed to keep a city centre thriving. So reinventing the city centres so it continues to be a place where people connect, ideas are explored, and communities are recognised and people feel proud is a key step into regenerating Coventry. Now, for us as a company, we don't think going back to normal is what's right, because normal is what got us here. So, we've done our work in the city, and as I say, we believe that we've developed spaces to allow the community to pick it up and move it forward. The Coventry has an amazing creative scene and an active community, and I guess our vision was to inspire them and sort of amplify what they've already got there and give them the tools and inspiration to move it forward after City of Culture, which has to be key. But we do have to ask the question, what are public spaces and cities going to become? What's their purpose? It's been changing for years, especially in Coventry. As well before the pandemic, they had City of Culture coming, and it had to ask themselves those questions. So part of our wayfaring strategy that we put forward was about key objectives, about looking at the unique and distinctness of the place and fostering that sort of sense of local ownership and creating a positive identity for the city. It's essential to the scheme that the interventions that we do are robust and enduring and sort of, not something that are just throwaway. And the considerations that we always look at is the arrival experience, the negotiation of public spaces, the connection that people have to a place, and the place experience. Now, there's obvious narratives that we can follow, but I do think that we need to give people the time to make new narratives after the pandemic. We need to give the community time to come back into the city and to find where they're comfortable and what they're comfortable with, and then move that forward. When it comes to who owns it, well, I think the term own, and this is something that Sam, who works with us, she kind of really put this really strong case about owning a space is very different to occupying it. And who owns a city comes quite negative. It's like the university, the council, the property developers, where who occupies it is a bit more radical. And it's also probably not so much about who owns it, even who occupies it, but more so who's the custodians of it. So I guess, it's important to think about how outdoor spaces will be used for social interaction post-pandemic. There will be some, what does that mean for the city, for its cultural and outdoor night economy? And I think more so the council letting hospitality sort of change. And we've seen that in Coventry already, where we've seen restaurants go onto the street, and that's going to change a great deal. So we feel that occupation will be more important than ownership. and we will play a key role in that. Hopefully the City of Culture will show Coventry what can be done when the boundaries are pushed and the risks are taken, and then the city needs to continue to take that risk and trust in itself to evolve. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to hear from Helen Kilby Nelson with a slightly different perspective that's born from her own practice and her ways of working. Helen, over to you.
Thanks, Helga. So hello, everyone. It's really great to see you, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So I'm Helen Kilby Nelson, and I'm an artist based in rural Warwickshire. And so for me, it was really important that Coventry was so welcoming and supported me in the continued development of my practice. And that was through artist residencies with Coventry Art Space and Coventry Biennial. And so it feels only right to me that I continue to support and advocate the evolving cultural landscape in the city as my way of giving back. I'm excited to be supporting a couple of organisations in the city, both directly and indirectly. And that includes Coventry Art Space as one of their board advisory group members. And I'm also partnering with them to continue the next phase of Speedy Crits, which is an artist development programme which I started last year. So my practice is informed by social and political issues within society, and I focus on, and I'm really passionate about, inclusion and forensically examining the inequalities in society and the narratives that perpetuate those inequalities. So I work across media as an independent and collaborative artist activist, and through socially engaged approaches, collaborative and participatory projects and actions. But today I'm going to focus on the social and collaborative element of my practice, which includes working with different communities, by which I mean geographical communities, digital, shared experience, and also about facilitating opportunities for artists in the wider community. So all of these projects are ongoing, and they're a mix of in real life and digital spaces, or online and offline spaces, which of course have been mainly online over the past year. So the tenant group, which was originally called the Tenants Action Group, was launched in 2018. We used to meet up offline, but we also had an online Facebook group for those tenants who were on Facebook. And that's grown from 6 members to over 400. This digital space gave access to more people, and it allowed us to remain connected to one another and continue our dialogue. It also allowed us to continue to support one another. And we included local town, county and district councillors in the group, and organisations such as the Citizens Advice Bureau, who added that extra layer of support. And that was done with the a collaborative agreement to allow those people from organisations to come into our grassroots organisation. The Stratford-on-Avon Community Art Project is a 2-year art project that we launched in September last year. And that's in partnership with a local community action group who managed to secure Section 106 funding from the council, the local residents and myself. And the focus of that project is really about providing opportunities in a creative space for people living in an area that has been identified as having a significant number of disadvantaged families. So the project encourages co-creation with residents, where they can share their skills, their ideas, their stories, and connect with one another through those. We work very closely with the residents to facilitate their ideas and also to support them in leading them. For example, one of the local residents wanted to start a comedy club, and we sat there and went, how do you start a comedy club in a pandemic? And we thought, well, let's just give it a go. So I commissioned local Coventry-based artist, performance artist, Rosa Postlethwaite, and she's come along to share her skills and knowledge to support the group through online regular meetups. They've been meeting since January, and they're getting ready to have a performance online at the end of May, beginning of June. But what they're also doing is talking about how they can sustain that comedy club for future performances outside of the project itself. And that's something that's really important to us, is how to sustain these little groups that are starting to develop under the project. We've also delivered over 100 activity packs across the area. The activity packs were a mix of artists' creations from across the West Midlands for participants to enjoy. And we partnered with local organisations, Welcome Here, who support Syrian refugees, and Make Lunch, who support families facing food poverty. And we delivered those around Stratford-upon-Avon and the surrounding villages. We've also delivered a number of workshop kits and tutorials that can be accessed both on and offline. We're very aware of digital poverty, but also that not everybody wants to be in the digital realm. So we try to have this hybrid approach to that. I'm also involved with a few other projects, a parallel state, an activist breakaway state, which offers free citizenry for those seeking alternative solutions to life on Earth. This began in Huddersfield in February as a response to Britain and Northern Ireland exiting the European Union. But it then moved online, and we had an event in Coventry where we involved, the speakers were from Coventry, and the majority of the audience were also from Coventry, which was great. Speedy Crits, that I mentioned earlier, is an online artist development programme at the moment. And that started because I'd been hearing and listening to other artists saying how frustrated they were that if they didn't have an artist studio, if they were working from home, they had very little opportunity to be able to share their works in progress, to get that really valuable feedback from their peers. And so that's how that started. And as I say, that will hopefully be continuing with Coventry Art Space later in the year. So having the option to interact and attend online has made some of these events more accessible. I note that Sarah Ellis mentioned in her keynote this morning that they had 76% of their audience were a new audience. So I think that really highlights how much wider we can make the accessibility to the arts for both artists and audiences. I've certainly attended far more things in the past year than I did in the 2 years prior. I have a long-term health condition, which makes it difficult for me to attend too many things that are happening in the real world, if we're going to call it that. So, it's been fortuitous in some respects that there is more going on online. The same as Simon with the question of who owns Coventry. I personally struggle with the word ownership as one that it kind of just feels a bit hegemonic as opposed to collaborative. But for me, it's about who feels they do or do not belong in a space, who's got access to it and who doesn't, who is being heard and who isn't, and who has the responsibility of caring for that space and the people that are occupying it. So for Coventry and its communities, so many grassroots organisations happening, and to me they're the important ones, not the ones at the top telling the ones down below how to do things. And so they're the ones that are continuously asking who isn't in the room and why. So as we think about redefining place, space and identity, I think it's about taking these things taking place in multiple locations simultaneously wherever possible. And I think about the voices and interactions that have been facilitated through the use of online spaces, but I also don't ignore the value of being in a space with people in the real world. So I hope in our desire to rush back to physical spaces, we don't forget those who find it difficult to access those physical spaces, and we don't put the barriers back up. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Helen, thank you. I think definitely that might be something that we pick up in our joint Q&A, that sort of, now we know what we know about online spaces and their ownership and their sense of shared value. How do we get the best of all worlds or both worlds? Don't want it to be quite so binary, but how can we get the benefits? And for another perspective, from a slightly more institutional lens, I guess, but a very, very exciting one for the city, I'm delighted to welcome Cara Pickering, who, as I said, is the programme manager for the Visual Arts Programme at City of Culture. Cara, please join us on screen, and over to you.
Thank you, Helga. Hi, everyone. So my name is Cara Pickering, and I'm the Visual Arts Programme Producer at Coventry City of Culture Trust. So my role is aligned to the development and management of the City of Culture programme that covers art, design, architecture and fashion. So the Coventry that I know, I was born in Coventry 30-something years ago, and the transformations that the city has gone through over the years have been catalysed by some titles that have been won by the city. So European City of Sport and, of course, UK City of Culture, which is very close to launching and will take place over the next year across the city. So much of the work that I'm carrying out at the moment is centred within the city centre and happens within this beautiful concrete collar that is known as the Coventry Ring Road. You know, city centres are places where sections of society cross over and intertwine. So from council members and waiting staff to museum workers, it's, you know, they're very much places where all socioeconomic backgrounds bump into each other, whether they know it or not. And of course, a massive focus for City of Culture Year is visitors. People of all ages, I think Simon pulled on this earlier as well, we use these spaces to live, work and play. And in that thought, in my mind, I feel that they very much belong to all of us, these spaces. And Coventry is very lucky that, as well as the city centre, which acts as a stunning time capsule for all the eras of architecture, we have these additional mini malls in communities like Riley Square and Jardine Crescent and Willenhall, which all serve their communities in the same way that the city centre does for the whole city. And they provide these incredible hubs, and you can go and find, you know, you can ask anybody there, they know each other, and there's a real sense of community. So over the years, again, Simon touched on this as well, and it's been really wonderful to be able to work alongside creative giants and also Helen throughout the past few years. But we can all definitely state that the way that these spaces are used has changed dramatically from basic retail. And I think back in 2012, we had incredible campaigns from Mary Portas with her High Street Review, and also local authorities highlighting the roles that BIDS and other organisations need to play in the development of city centres and high streets and keeping people visiting. So if we are to keep working in these spaces, we have to look at ways of working. So I am by no means an artist, but I am a creator of space. So I work to create platforms for others to create and share. So from pre-pandemic in Coventry to the role that I'm now in with City of Culture, the driver and possibilities for me lie in creation, curation and interpretation. And these key elements have always existed, and they form the basis of much of the visual arts sector. But for me, I have to present the opportunity for change in two simple letters. So it's C and O. So co-curation and co-creation and interpretation. It's adopting the same skill sets of collaboration, but in order to listen. So we can't just listen, but we have to provide opportunities to share. Whose stories are we telling? Who are we inviting to create the work that we're asking audiences to engage with? And who are we inviting to enjoy the work that we make? You know, partnership working has been a huge part of the development of the visual arts programme. So linking with organisations like Coventry Business Improvement District, the Royal Institute of British Architects, Coventry University, Smartify, which is a digital app, Coventry City Council and the British Council. All of these organisations contribute to help reach audiences, they connect dots, but are also helping to push new opportunities for the region. So all of this is beyond my dreams. It's fantastic to be able to be doing this for my hometown, but you throw a pandemic in the middle and we know that that presents particular challenges like being together and up close, which is the way that we've all become so accustomed to working. So for the past few months, I've been tackling this with people and place at the core. So the three parts of the programme where we're really pushing this are the show windows in partnership with the Coventry Business Improvement District and Royal Institute of British Architects. And businesses have had a really challenging year, and we are transforming their window spaces into these beautiful galleries and installation zones. We are going to be entering their spaces. So we're inviting them to be part of the process and the storytelling. And if you dig deeper, you know, some of them are family-run businesses that have been there for years, or they're newly arrived, and they're specialists with real passion. And that's something that the more I work in these areas, the more I understand that we have an opportunity to present. Another area I'm working in is a street art program. So we're not just focusing on the decorative, but also bridging gaps. So we have a Coventry team who'll be working with communities, bringing the artists in to speak to the centres and neighbourhoods that they'll be painting in and telling their stories in beautiful ways, but also tackling or addressing the issues that are faced. And the final bit is Prototype City, which is in partnership with the British Council. So we'll be working with section of the community that feels space isn't for them, or places that need updating or refreshing to fit their needs, and start conversations before the design process, bringing them into the design process with architects, and then having with them through the build process as well. So we'll be working with young people at risk of exploitation, residents living with disabilities, both visible and hidden. And these are global challenges that will be part of a project piloted in Coventry. So we're very aware that creating these spaces, you know, this is something that is happening globally. We're more connected to people further afield than we ever were before. So we're working with Senegal, Brazil, Denmark, Egypt, and also some architects from the UK. So keeping connected, well, I work to invite people to contribute. So from all of the conversations with these communities and business owners, we're creating additional content, working with a digital app. So we'll link poetry and sound art, interviews, having all of that information readily available at source. So it really is about rooting the worlds we're creating with the ones that we're living in, and with the landscape forever changing, you know, every month it feels new. We've got to keep updating the offer, but the process for me remains the same. So it's listening, acting, sharing, and repeating. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Cara. If I can invite our other participants to join me on screen. I might just pick up at where you just left off, Cara, in the first place. And again, please, we've had with other panels, sometimes people leave their questions right till the end. They sort of muster up, and with 3 minutes to go, they ask a fantastic fantastic question that we don't have time to cover. Please don't feel shy. Just be a little keyboard warrior and put your question in the Q&A, and they'll get sent over to me to ask. But I'll kick things off. So Cara, and I think this is something I heard actually in different ways in everybody's presentation, but your last 4 words were, can you remind me again? Listen,
act, share, and repeat.
Listen, act, share, repeat. I think is that something that you would characterize, say, your practice, Helen, and what you've been doing, Simon, in the city? And can you give us maybe a kind of concrete, and if that's so, can you give us a concrete example of how that works? Listen, act, share, repeat.
After you, Helen.
Yeah. Just to explain further, I think what I heard in all of that what you've been talking about is about iterative working. Like, you consult with people, so listen, you act, you set up a Facebook group, you set up a comedy group, you share that, and now, having learned about that, you'll take it forward to the next iteration. I suppose is that. I'm just wondering how. I know that might not be necessarily how you've thought about it up till now, but now that I say that back to you, do you see your work in those phrases?
Yes, I think I always have, though, because what got me into wanting to work with communities and having a more social art practice was not liking what I'd seen before, which was communities having things done to them. Yeah. And not with them, and how that made me feel. You know, I came to the arts really quite late in life. because I hadn't had the opportunity to engage with the visual arts. And so I've sort of still got one foot in that sort of slightly suspicious, cynical place. And then I've got my other foot in the more open-minded and having gained more knowledge about it. And so what I was seeing was, I thought, I know that if this group of people had plopped into my community, I would have looked at them and gone, who the hell are you? So it's so important to be, if you're not already a part of that community, you wait to be invited, or you introduce yourself and then listen to them. You're not going in there saying, I think this, I think that. So yeah, that's always been quite strong in my practice, I think.
Yeah. I work with, well, he's moved beyond simply doing murals, but graffiti artist Muhammad Ali, who used to say that he goes up to like cool looking young kids, you know, with their head, you know, their little beanie hat and whatever, and it was like, take your damn headphones off and turn around, put your back to the wall and look out at the people that you're about to change this face of this community. It's all very well for you to come in here and do your fancy things with your cans and then go away. But no, ears out, turn around, talk to the people. They're going to live with this, you're not. And I think that's, and I think there's increasingly, that is a movement I'm seeing. It's like, it's not plop art, as you say, you know, it's not enough anymore just to blight the landscape with something. So in Simon, some of the lovely examples that you shared with us, how did that listen, share, act, repeat, act, share, repeat, how did that manifest?
I mean, obviously the process was key. When we first arrived in Coventry, I guess there was part of our initial thinking was that we needed to come and fix something. I'll be honest, it was like, okay, they're here, how do we fix it as a company? But I think we spent 4 days as a team going around Coventry meeting stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, I mean people like Cara and people from Imagineer and from Art Space and the police and the council. And we kind of and Trish from the bid, obviously. And we quickly realized that Coventry didn't need fixing. It had an amazing community. It had amazing cultural framework almost there. There was loads of community groups working together. And in actual fact, it felt like it was a bit fragmented for sure, but it certainly didn't need fixing. So then we developed a process, and what we do is we do a thing, we follow like the REBA stage of work, where the process is key. It's about making a strategic definition. We do contact the stakeholders that we think are relevant and go, what's your thoughts? Where are you? Now, we definitely wanted to do more community engagement, but that was quite challenging with the pandemic.
Yes.
But we worked with different social, with the trust, through their channels and with the city and through the comms team to bring up that sort of strategic definition. And I think the process was key. And what went through the process and what we learned through the process is what resulted in the outcome, more so than us having a preconceived idea of what we wanted and then trying to get people there. So for me, the point of listening was that I wouldn't say that the results of every one of our projects was exactly how I thought it would be, but it's not about what I thought it would be. It's about how the process and the stakeholders' involvement allowed it to get there. And we definitely need to, working for the public realm, I think it's really brave of them how they, I think through Shanine's advice as well, bringing us in to really be part of the infrastructure of it was really an interesting viewpoint, and trying to make it so that it wasn't an add-on for art and culture to be placed into the infrastructure of the world and the city. But it has been a nightmare with pandemics, and like every one of our activities that we'd planned to meet with the community and get your feedback has been sort of against us a little. But we do have some great examples of the welcome sign for the train station, where we brought in an organisation that has been doing workshops in the community to get people to do little stitchings that will be part of the sign that gets put into the resin. And, we've got Kerry Reichardt, who's doing a mosaic at Palmetto, and she's now doing a template that will go to schools for school children to put their design in, that will then get cast, and then, those tiles will be put in. So it's about trying to get that community involvement and not so much know what the end product is, but just allow it to become something based on the process.
Cara, just to round off that, and then I have got lots of questions. Thank you, so I'll move on. But is there a quick example of where that little mantra, you can sort of talk quickly about how?
Yeah, I mean, it's
how that's worked, or how that changed an initial idea that you had. You know, we thought we'd do this, but actually, when we started listening to people, they didn't want it. They didn't want X. They wanted Y.
Sure. I mean, you know, I've been in this role since January, and being a Coventry local, and like I say, you know, it's something that I'm really excited to be part of. And there is a lot of not pressure, but there's, you know, eyes are on it right now, and it's about how we work. But I think with everything I'm doing, you know, nothing I'm doing is created in silo. And the opportunities that are being created, like Simon said, there's a journey that has to go on for the city. We have amazing networks. I'm working with, you know, some of the partners that I mentioned. They are embedded, you know, REBA are embedded in with the university and provide opportunities for the students. So one of the things we're doing is working with the schools and the schools network to provide opportunities for all 3 layers of the school system, and that working to deliver that within a pandemic and crossing that over with working architects who are struggling to piece together their ways of working during this time.
Or keep going even.
Yeah, you know, you can't do that and just be like, well, these are my thoughts and that's the way it's working. So everything where possible, no matter how difficult it can be at times, I'm using that process.
I'm going to move to questions now, and I want to ask Edith because it relates back to the points you've just made. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough. I beg your pardon. So, Edie Murray, who's a local artist, how do you think people in Coventry can make sure their voices are heard in the changes made in the city? I love Coventry so much, and it has so much potential to be a more amazing place. But I'm also anxious that people like me and my community aren't the decision makers, which is what I said to, and then I don't understand it, sorry. Also, how do you please all the different communities? Because different people might want different things. And I think here, there's always going to be, because institutions have to use other people's networks to get to people. You can't literally stop every person in the street. So really extensive schools collaboration there, I can see, you know, like again, through maybe the corporate sector. But some people who are in the interstitial, not part of those networks, might not be caught. So then they feel like they've not been heard because nobody asked them. But B, what happens when there's a conflict between 2 distinct groups, and how does that get resolved? And maybe I'll start with Cara, but just short. I mean, that might be a difficult question for people, but just your thoughts on that, please, for Edie.
First of all, there is always a conflict within like-minded communities or communities with different offerings, and the more I think about it now on the spot, how I've managed to deal with some of that is by keeping the conversation open. And in the context of City of Culture, which is obviously my main focus at the moment, is there are deliverables and there's things that have to be done. And you know, I think it might be something that somebody picked up on earlier, but City of Culture year isn't the end of Coventry. We don't have to get it all right.
Did you not get the memo? Shuts down June 22. Just.
But we don't have to get it all right immediately, but we should. And I can see it in many different places from the council right across the board. The wheels are in motion. And so by getting, you know, there are many places online, there's different meetings and things and conversations. Do speak up, do go and visit. That's how we can be involved if you are already in the room. And if you know that somebody isn't in the room, like Helen does, keep pressing that conversation. Who's missing? You know, that repeating the process, that's it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It seems to me that's where your work, Helen, is really vital, because exactly the people who might not be out in through maybe a faith network or whatever, they seem to be a lot of the people that you are working with, because they are working in maybe a locality. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, partly, and also because I think it's about thinking about how do you raise your awareness of what you're trying to do to the people that aren't in those usual spaces, whether they're digital or not. So what we've done with the community project I'm currently involved in is we've gone around putting leaflets through doors. You know, it's not a fun job, but you know, it gets the message out there. It tells them we're here, come and talk to us. We've got a designated telephone number. The community centre has a post box. So we find different ways for people to be able to get in touch with us, in the hope that we're not missing anybody. There are always going to be some people that get missed, but hopefully through that collaboration with the local councillors, they then also meet the people that might not be attending the usual places, and they'll say, have you heard about this that's happening? Here's Helen's phone number, give her a call, or do you want me to pass on a message? So it's really, I hate to use the word using, but taking all those networks, taking advantage of all those connections you have got, and then the connections that they've got, and you know, so it's a rhizomatic thing as well that you know, you develop.
Rhizomatic, lovely.
It's good for me today, thank you.
Simon, I've got another question. So, unless you've got anything like,
I mean, just
on that bit.
The quick one is just introverts and extroverts. I mean, you know, especially when it comes to people like councils, they, you know, the people that shout the loudest are often heard. And you know, the world's full of introverted people that aren't shy but just aren't loud. And how do we find a way to listen to introverted people and give them the opportunity? And that's, I think, from a council point of view, that's a hard thing for them, because they work from comms, they work from complaints on Twitter and Facebook, and that's how they react. So, you know, we put forward a small strategy of going how we could amplify local artists that didn't have all the skill sets that all the others did, so that we can upskill them so they can do the big jobs. But it is challenging. Yeah.
And interesting, we've even come across this on Hello Culture. We're convinced that more people ask questions in this forum because it's safer to do so in a webinar where you always get the often very confident, you know, person with their hand up ready to speak, you know, like, and I know that can be tricky for people who just look and go, oh, how are they doing that? You know, even their presence in the room then makes them more introverted. I'm going to move on. This is a question from our curator, Lara. If we want to reconnect and create connections with the many communities of Coventry, and how do we make new placemaking narratives that are distinct for Coventry? And also, how do we manage competing and conflicting needs of a city and for a city? I'm not sure on that last bit, but I think I just like particularly the placemaking narratives that are distinct and managing competing needs. I think we covered that off a little bit, because I think, Cara, you're right, there will always be competing needs or competing wants and desires. But the distinctiveness, what in your experience is distinctive of Coventry?
I mean, yeah, there's the same narratives that keep coming up over and over again that are the past of the city. You know, two-tone, obviously, Starly. I feel like I've had these really strong narratives that are constantly being repeated to me, and yet when I look at what the city's about, I was surprised to find out the city had, you know, how good the university is in this city, how good its technology base is. It's got one of the best architectural schools in the city, in the country, sorry. Yeah. You know, it's got the transport innovation hub that's leading forward and how a city should be, a future city, green spaces. You know, it's got these amazing community groups. It has a really diverse culture. It has the most amazing Irish dancing that I never knew about. I mean, there's so many narratives that I've forgotten because they keep going back to the obvious ones. And I think we just need to, you know, Coventry needs to be a bit brave, and also just to look at what it wants to become, more so than just going on the rhetoric of what it was, personally. So I just think we just got to sort of throw some of those narratives out the way. And as I said, I think the narrative is going to change now, because this pandemic's had a massive hit on people. You know, it's going to change people's personal views of their own lives, their relationships, the community. And I feel that when people come back, we just need to be ready to listen to it rather than thinking that we know what the new narrative will be.
Yes, because there will be competing demands. And you mentioned Sky and Two-Tone, but of course, it did take City of Culture for them to have their first exhibition in their hometown since 1968, whenever Ska kind of really came to this city. Sorry, Cara or Helen, anything you want to add about what in Europe, some key distinctiveness pieces and how you manage conflicting demands?
Do you want to go, Helen? Or...
Okay. I suppose this is a difficult question though, isn't it? But I think Cara touched on it earlier about continuing to listen and keeping the conversations going, maintaining that open space for the dialogue. And it's about talking through those conflicts with the communities. But if I just going back to Lara's question about what's distinct to Coventry, as somebody that doesn't live in the city and sadly isn't working in the city at the moment, to me, what was distinct about Coventry were the grassroots organisations, were the friendliness of everybody I met, both within the arts organisations, but also just walking around the streets. People like to chat. To sit in the bus station cafe and just have a chat with somebody I've never met before. And those are the things that I think make Coventry quite distinct. It's open, it's friendly, but we need to be careful not to forget that the people that are living in the city and what they want. And Facebook might not be a great place, but you do get a feel for how the people in the city are feeling when you look through some of the Facebook forums, and we shouldn't dismiss what we read. No,
absolutely. Cara, anything to add on that one? I have got a ton of questions, so if you've got nothing new to add, I'm going to
really quickly. I am a product of Coventry. I'm a product of immigrants that came to Coventry, that took over a Caribbean centre, that bought the sound systems that inspired Ska, of a man who DJ'd until he was 80. That is Coventry. Coventry is whatever you want to be in it. You were allowed that space, and we are DIY people. If you can't find a way to do it, you kick down a door, you make it happen. And that is why we've got the grassroots organisations that we have, with the friendliness that we have. And so this opportunity now on the top, to bring in those the corporate names, the organisations, that's where I'm finding the joy in working, and hoping that if we can show them where these people are, or at least start to show them where these people are, that's the distinctness, and that's for me, the key.
Thank you. Actually, Cara, I'm going to go back to you. This is specifically for you, but maybe if the other two of you want to. So this is from Amanda. Thank you, Amanda. Cara, your enthusiasm is infectious for Hometown. I feel and know you are a genuine listener. Just wondering how it's felt from your perspective, as it's been difficult to get to your listening ear as part of Coventry City of Culture. What hindrances have you encountered, and what would be your solutions to better hear the voices of the quiet people of your beloved spaces? Which I think directly relates back to what Simon has just said, and actually that question came in slightly before that. But I don't want to put you on the spot about the organisation, because I don't think that's fair, but...
I'm happy to say I started in my role in January. We launch in 2 weeks, and I would love to have been awarded the opportunity to have 3 years to develop my role and programme, and not a pandemic. That would also have been great.
Yeah, I certainly do a little bit of sort of conflict of interest warning. I do a little bit of work for City of Culture, and I do know, just even you saying you were able to put leaflets through the door at one point for the Window Wonderland, we couldn't even make leaflets for other people to put through the door, because that would have been the trust encouraging people to walk down other people's garden paths. I mean, it was just okay. Facebook.
Yeah. but I try where possible to attend different meetings with various groups, and without giving too much away, there's always, I put my email at the end of my presentation, and I'm around as much as possible and as I can be. But I think, again, just because we launch in May, it doesn't mean that everything is set in stone and that it's finished. I've got a stream of call outs that are available. I've got opportunities, networks, like there's all kinds of things that are still going to be coming, because it's not just about this now moment.
Yeah, thank you. And then Simon, a quick one for you, and then we'll go back to the final question, I think, question from our sponsor, because this is a slightly more close question. So this is from Kim Hackelman. Hello, welcome, Kim. She's here earlier. Simon, I love what Creative Giants are doing in the city. Will all of the projects be captured in one place, like a book? Not, or even a book.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Creative Giants haven't done that much in the city. The city's done it themselves. We've just been advising. So the challenge for us is that we've been working for the public realm, which is a council-driven infrastructure organisation that is about delivery of roads, pavements, seating. And we've tried to, put this buzz on it and art, but the reality is we're not a creative part of a creative company as such. We're part of the guys at
urban design team.
Yeah, they're in there.
Yeah.
So, but I know that Joe Shaw and Colin Knight and David Nuttall and all the key players within the council are very proud of their art, of how the city has grown and developed, and how they've taken more risks. And for this city, it's big. They've taken big risks. If any of you have seen Hertford Street, you will realise they've taken big risks. It's madness. But so let's hope that someone will be inspired to collate that together. But it's
so that groups of photographers go around and do Sunday photo walks, and
that's it. I mean, it's
to Instagram, and
hopefully this is just we're a seed. We're not a seed because it's already been there. There's people like Michael Batchelor's been putting street art around that city for years. There's loads of stuff going on already, but hopefully this collation of new energy will encourage someone to put it down in a book for sure. But what we've done is a very small part of what is just there, and I think people will just find it now and see it because their eyes are more open.
Brilliant. That's a lovely way to put it. Thank you. I'm afraid. Thank you to all the other people who I'm afraid we won't get time for. Our last question is from Craig Ashley, who's actually at the Faculty of Arts and Humanities at Coventry University. Thanks to the panel for the introduction and a very pertinent conversation about public spaces start to be repopulated and reimagined. The profile and agency of the UK City of Culture, as well as the resource and investment, is so valuable in what we might call recovery. The question might be, I think is, Craig, how do we sustain this beyond 2022? How might a city centre be managed differently when it comes to leading through culture? And how do we ensure that this supports livelihoods of creative communities? I know that City of Culture has is really trying to make sure that there is legacy built in. So I won't even go there, but like after you go, Simon, I mean,
Cara is the legacy. Helen is Cara is the most amazing. Like for me, Cara, what she's achieved, like who she is, how she's grown, and what she will become in this is what is the legacy of this city. The same as Sam Williams, who works now for Creative Giants. She started off working as an artist. She still is an artist in the city. She then went to work for the Trust. She now is working for us as a senior producer, doing huge scale things. I think Craig is part of the success of this city. These good people that actually care, want it to work, and listen. That's the future.
So, but haven't you heard they're all going to London when they're
No, that's most of the Trust. The key people are going to probably stay here. So the key people that make a difference will stay here.
I didn't say that. I'm a happy freelance worker for the City of Culture Trust. So your point is actually legacy isn't buildings. Legacy isn't a painted bench.
No, it's the people that have been inspired. It's the Kim, it's the Eddie, it's the Sherry, it's everyone that's on this talk. It's everyone that gets angry about even people like me coming into the city. I just respect that. It's like you should be going, why wasn't it me? Why did we need you coming? I think every attitude, every voice, introverted, extroverted, is what makes this city. And as Cara said, this is a can-do city. I talked about narratives earlier, and I felt a bit embarrassed afterwards. Like, you're right, that's not Coventry. Coventry is Cara. Coventry is all these people. Yeah. Mindy from Art Space, Trish, even though she's from Solihull, but all these people that really care.
I had friend of mine was going to run for mayor, and at one point we were discussing what a definition of a brummie was, and it's like you are from or in Birmingham. So that's all you have to be. To be a brummie, you have to be from or in it. You're in it, you're a brummie. You're in it for a day, you're a brummie.
Well, I'm from Great Bar, so I can.
Yeah,
I'm a
so
brummie.
you're from,
There
but you know, so we're like, and the same with Coventry. You get, you know, if you're in it, Coventryan. I never remember what you are. Helen, your thoughts on? And I'm going to slightly derail this or slightly arch it, because I know that you've been part of a leadership program that myself and Lara have run, and that was run by the City Council as part of their overarching strategic development. But upskilling and new opportunities is definitely part of Coventry 2021, isn't it? So surely that's part of, you know, if as Simon says, the legacy is the people, the opportunity to do things at different scale or to participate in development programs, that's part of legacy building too, isn't it? I think you're on mute, lovely.
Nearly got to the end without doing that.
Yeah,
yeah, it definitely is. I think that ability, not the ability, the opportunity to develop your skills, but also then to be able to put back into the city that supported you in doing that. So yes, through the Advantage Leadership Programme, I've just been on the Novi Sad School of Participation residency, and the things that I've learned have given me the knowledge and skills to then share with others, not just in Coventry, but also in South Warwickshire. And I'm kind of keen to develop those connections as well. So
yeah,
sort of just outside of the city as well. But yeah, they're really important. But you know, can't agree with Simon more that it's about the people that are making the difference and continuing the work. And so whether you live in or out of Coventry, if you're putting back into the city, then there's legacy there. So.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. Cara, I'm sort of giving you the last word on this because obviously, well, because first of all, you are the legacy. You are the, you know, that's it. That's done. You're here, so don't move. But also, I just think you can speak a little bit to that intention within City of Culture Trust, that it doesn't all come to a juddering halt.
Absolutely, and I'll always refer to my programme and what I'm developing rather than the trust wider vision, which will be shared with everybody. But you know, I'll just name the street art programme, for example, in Paint Me Trust. We are working with a new collective of Coventry locals, which was this interview process was supported by Simon, and the trust is investing in that group with the Business Improvement District. So we are providing opportunities to upskill them, to create a strong bond with the Business Improvement District, to give them all the links to all of the people, you know, and that is happening across the visual arts programme with curatorial networks. Just I could reel off through the different projects, you know, and like I said, we are continuing that process throughout listen, share, repeat. It's all in there. And so my thought is that we can create the links for bid to understand how to work with these cultural organisations or grassroots, like if they understand how it works, but then we bring the shop owners into the conversations, they understand that process, they understand that they have the power to create those items themselves, and that's how we start to build the legacy. It creates open doors, easy, you know, Helen then can approach a shop and say, hey, I'd love to do this installation in your window, and they go, yeah, we did that last time, we get it, it can work.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Well, yes, we did. Yes, what is that African tale, isn't it? The great leader is the one who says, where they say we did this ourselves. You know, the good leader is the one when they said, oh, look how great the king was for us. But the great leader is the one who says, where the people say we did this ourselves.
Yeah, so that's the thought process, that if we open the doors and tease everybody in, they understand that they have the power to deliver it themselves, and the DIY process continues.
Brilliant. I think a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much. We are out of time. I'm sorry, we've run over. I try and keep my timekeeping very tight, but we're hearing some great content. We are out of time though, so thank you so much, Cara, Simon, Helen, for your participation today, and a virtual round of applause for you all. Thank you to Coventry University Faculty of Arts and Humanities, and especially our co-curator, Craig Ashley, who you heard from just a moment ago with a question. Our programme curator, as ever, the wonderful Lara Ratnaraja. Our programme producer, Shirley Benson, making everything run smooth as silk, making us all look good, making us all occupy enough of the screen that we didn't look like pinheads. The technical producer was Gareth Peel and makes everything look so slick and wonderful. And our closed captioner, who keeps everything rolling so smoothly, is Wendy Osmond. And I really want to thank them because their support is really, really valued. And across the whole, this is the last Hello Culture for a season, and the whole season, they've just been wonderful. As I said, if you've missed any of today's sessions or any previous Hello Culture events, you can check them out on the website. Today's won't be up for a little while. We'll have a few to edit and get right and do all the captioning and get the sound right, but all of the others are already there. That's it from us. Panelists, can you stay at least on, you can turn your screens off, but if you can stay online on the Zoom. Participants, we will be delightfully booting you out and ejecting you physically if you're not quite out in enough time for us. But can I thank you all? I'd wish you all a very safe journey to wherever you're going, even if that's just downstairs for a cuppa. And stay safe, everyone. On behalf of the whole of the Hello Culture team, I really want to thank our panelists once again and all of you for coming. That's it from us. Bye-bye.